C'è un grosso problema di conflittualità interna che ci ha sottratto tante energie nel passato.
So I
There's
think
a big internal
how does the money work
away a lot of
in
energy in
Vienna?
the past. Okay, fantastic. So I think we are in another question, but the question is how to better deal. And then we have the possibility to understand how, answering to Chiara's question, no? How to legalize, how to give, or maybe Robert, if you want to start from an introduction and tell us about how you made it. Then we. No. And
I didn't prepare. Maybe I can tell you in the discussion. I prepared some
Statement.
a little bit basic statement.
Okay,
The question was,
statement.
what is better living? And I was very inspired by the discussion in the afternoon, early afternoon. So there are some points I imagine. For example, the question of freedom and autonomy. That's a very important question, I guess. Found also in Austria, in Rome and in Austria. And the question was, how are those radical concepts in Rome transferable to Austria, where there is a very state housing system, and everybody says, oh, it's a big system. But I think there are similarities, and I want to take a look on those similarities and differences. So that's my aim. It's 5 points. Yeah. The first point is that as you all know, we had a big transformation in the global society from the 50s and 60s to the 80s, 90s, and 0 years. In the 60s, from the 30s to the 70s, there was a paradigm of welfare, state welfare in the Western world, in the capitalist world, but also in the communist world. It was a different kind of welfare state. So it was welfare for all. It was a big solidarity was a big theme. So the suggestion was that we could build a world where everybody could have a good living. This was the projection. And the capitalists or the Western society said it's capitalism, market economy that does it, and the communists said no, it's planned economy. So it was this well-known competition between the two systems, and they drove this paradigm because everybody wanted to be better. Everybody wanted to have an inclusive state, to have welfare for everybody with different means. And in 1980, there is an exact date. It was 1973. We had a regime of global capitalism. It's called Bretton Woods. I don't know if you know Bretton Woods. Yes. And in 1973, it was abandoned. Bretton Woods, in principle, was a kind of real economic paradigm. So if you did economy, you should have either currencies behind or gold behind. So there was something physical in the economy. And when Bretton Woods was abandoned, this was the start of a really explosive capitalism, the finance capitalism. It was the birthday of the finance capitalism as we know it today. Because it was not real economy, or you say old economy, it was financial economy that deals with bonds, with assets, with values that are not real, with projections, with speculation. And I think this had an enormous impact also on the real estate, because as maybe you know, today the value of all the real estate assets over the world are about 2 or 3 times as big as the GDP of all countries of the world together. So the value of the real estate is 3 times the real production in the world every year is made. So that's an incredible balance. And so the real estate sector is part of this speculative economy. And this is a relatively new tendency. It's from the 70s. Before it was rather conservative. I mean, there were prices, it was a market, but it was a real market. at real values. And today, as you know, it's not a real market. It depends on how much trust do you have on a city like New York or Rome or Vienna, and that defines the prices. And if there are Russian investors investing in flats in Vienna, that defines the market price of property. So this was a real kick in the 1970s that influenced also the whole land price, property market, and so on, and does it until now. So I think that's a big trend, and it was an explosion of speculation, in fact. And you told the price in Rome going from 3 lira to 100 lira. This was exactly in this time. So that was so that was the first statement in the situation, the bigger situation. The second statement is that today, better living is not a right, a human right to have a good basic life. Today, the term is you have to pay for better living. You have to pay for it. It doesn't exist, yeah. As every human should have a home, should have food, should have an education, but you have to pay for it. And when you have to pay for it, it's for those who have monetary savings or who earn something and make tax contributions. And you hear it everywhere. You can be integrated, you can have social welfare and things if you are a taxpayer. So this link that you have to be in the formal economy to have a better living is very, very present. And everybody says, why don't you work? Why don't you pay taxes? Then you will be in the system. And automatically this excludes, for example, common work, care work, educational work, integration work. This is not included in this because this is informal economy. It is not valued, and you don't pay taxes for it. So it drops a whole sector out of what is good living. It's defined by monetary principles. I think that's a very important tendency. Now to the discussion we had in early afternoon. I think there was this question of freedom was issued. Yeah? So I think I would call it autonomy. Am I autonomous in my project, in what I'm doing? And you said sometimes we lose it if we are bound to the formal system, because then we have not the freedom and we have to react as the formal systems are. I think it's a dialectic question, yeah, because you are in the system, you are living in the system. For example, you need the current, the electricity for the project, and if it's turned off, you can work with the project. So it's always a balance. It's the question: how much are you autonomous, and how much do you integrate in the system? And integration in the system is not per se not negative, I guess, yeah. And I think this is common for both worlds, for the Roman world and also for the Viennese world, because also the groups like Sargfabrik or projects that are self-governed, they are very autonomous on the one side, and on the other side they are integrated in the system. In Vienna they are more integrated because there are social housing companies supporting this and the city supporting this. But the groups themselves, they are very autonomous. For example, I told you, Sargfabrik, we are self-governed, it's our money, we can do what we want, but we are integrated. And in Rome, you're more far away from this, or the integration is very little. So, but it's not the principle. I think the principle is you have to have autonomy, to have the freedom to act and to do integration work and to do art and education and things like that. That's not possible in a mere housing project. If you're living in a flat, it's not freedom, it's just having a flat to live. But the autonomy and the freedom to decide what you want to do in the society and what you want to give back, that's very essential. And I think it's also essential in the social housing sector. And maybe that's similar, but the extent is very different from Rome and Austria. And this is also the freedom to include, for example, asylum seekers. We have in the Sargfabrik, that's not a formal program or something like that. We pay for it to have people here, to give people a flat that are normally not supported by the community. So that's our personal decision. So the inclusion is also intercultural, it's also intergenerational, because we have older, elderly, and younger people and things like that. And I think those projects, it's a big, how do you say? It's a big, I would say fun, it's a big positive emotional experience to have this kind of integration, because you feel good when people are feeling good. So that's very important. I think you also have a good feeling when you stay here, and we also have it in Sargfabrik. And it's not only merely a flat where I come home and sleep and look TV, and in the morning I'm going to work or do something. I think that's so. Autonomy and freedom is a very important factor, and I would say autonomy makes free. Only if you're autonomous, you can do things like this that are not only residential. And the last one, but it's only a side remark, because you said you made this catalog of buildings in Rome. We see it that are suitable for a project like this, and I think that non-residential buildings are the main target for those projects. Why? Non-residential buildings only exist if they have an operator. They need an operator or an operating agency or enterprise or a government or something like that. And if this vanishes, it's obsolete. And you saw it in the buildings. They are giving up. Everybody says, oh, maybe we can rebuild it or do that. But it's up, or the hotel for sale. The operator is gone, and in a residential building, it's not the case, because a residential building is ubiquitous. Any time it can be used. There are other residents that move in, so it will never be obsolete. So I think it's the right target, and it's a typology that's very suitable for autonomous projects. That's it. Thank you.
I think it's maybe good to make some questions around what has been said on the point.
I have a question. If we go further with this concept of autonomy, and what we had in Rome, the dependency on electricity, organization. So the game we have to play, and tax, obviously tax is I devote myself to the system, and with that money the infrastructure can be built. So would you say, can there be an autonomy within a bigger structure, or would you, in all radicality, say it should be all autonomous island, also in terms of, right now, technologically speaking, a lot can be done also in terms of autonomy, of energy, etc. But how do you see the relation?
I think it doesn't make sense to be completely autonomous, because in human history, you have always interactions. Even in the Paleolithicum, you have interactions. They changed items and things like that, resources they didn't have. So I know the question to be completely, for example, in the energy business, everybody said, the buildings should be totally autonomous. But it doesn't make sense, because it needs more techniques and more effort. So I think it's not a goal to be completely autonomous, but you should decide when is it important for my profile and my personal freedom. And if I have electricity off the grid, that doesn't make anything to my personal freedom. It's just everybody needs it. Every building and the whole society needs it. So I don't think, maybe if you can reach it and you have energy autonomy, it's okay. But it should be a goal. So I think it's a human it's an obstacle or very special to human development that there are linkings between an object, a project, and the surrounding. And this is also fruitful, because it's a kind of it's a kind of mirroring yourself to the environment.
Please.
So I've got a big question. It's about how does the money work in Vienna? Because often projects like these, and with socialism as it goes on, you run out of other people's money. With taxation, they move to other countries. It's a big problem in the UK at the moment. A lot of money is leaving the UK because of the high taxation laws. The non-domicile status means people move their money elsewhere. There's a gap where there's no money. So great projects start up but then get abandoned. Is it because it's so carefully calculated with the 220,000 units that there's enough rent to pay for new builds and sustain old builds at the same time?
I mean, the first thing that capital is moving out. It's essential of the globalization of the free capital, and you can't change it. It's the craziness of the system. Yeah. In Vienna, social housing and the subsidies for social housing are, I told you, are a big business. In fact, yeah. The city is earning, the firms who are doing the construction are earning, and they employ people, and so it's a self-sustaining system, and it has a common profit or a common profit, and it is a private profit in the companies, and banks are involved and big enterprises. It's not a non-profit system. It's a maybe it's a non-profit system because the housing system doesn't make profit, but the whole sector is quite a common economic sector. So everybody wants to invest. It's good to invest in social housing.
It's almost like a government bond where it's always
there are government bonds also, and they are
safe
secure.
investment.
Yes, and also pension funds are investing. I think
and of course you have economies of scale, so you can build for cheap with great quality.
Of course, we have a rather cheap construction cost. They rose very sharp in the last, because of the commercial competition. But they are rather affordable. Yeah.
I see.
So it's a big system. It's not a small system. We have to say this. Yeah. It's not romantic.
I have a question that is more pragmatic. I still didn't understand what is your legal status as Sargfabrik. You are a cooperative.
Yeah, we are. Yes, we are. I mean, we are an association because in the time when we founded it, we would have liked to become a cooperative. Yeah, but that time the social housing was controlled by the old social housing companies, and they didn't like us to get into their association. But now, afterwards, 10 years later, they said, come to us, we would like you. But in fact, it's a basic cooperative. Every member has one voice, and all the decisions are taken in the association, in the assembly of the members, and so it's very basic cooperative.
Okay, so the compromise you found, it's the cooperative.
Yes, yeah, it's owned.
No, like go out from a status of a corporation that is legal in this system.
The single persons are only renters of their flats, and they don't even have the rental status, normal rental status. They have a kind of it's called Wohnheim. I don't know the English term. Weißt du was Wohnheim heißt in Italienisch?
Yeah, where it's like what you build here for high money, the same legal construction like a student house.
Yeah, like a student home. Yeah.
So but it has also a double trick that there is no relation between a garage and an apartment. Normally, if you build, and that makes building not very climate friendly, but also extremely expensive, there is a relation, sometimes one-to-one, depending on the cities in Europe, that if you make an apartment, you have to guarantee the parking possibilities, which is madness, obviously.
This was
So they were the pioneers also in developing all these tricks how to do it within the system, but to stay autonomous.
Yeah.
And this is also why we look at the project again and again. How were they doing it? But
And
then
Because a
they
student
realized-
means not every student has. You have just to guarantee the parking lots for the service.
and it's legally very tricky. So until now we have to deal with some bureaucracies because we have such a it's very tricky, and we also have a very strong internal contract and things like that. So it's also legally there's a legal framework very
And
strong.
as you were speaking today about the Austrafabrik and about the different systems, so Switzerland is a little bit an in-between situation between a 100 years of idea of commoning and a bank system which is already a lot of money with a very, very little amount of your own what you have to bring in the system. How do you see that roles of banks in that system?
I would say it's a very good system that you have a bank that doesn't want the money to be paid back. I mean, they give you a loan and you never have to pay back the
In
loan.
Switzerland.
You only have to pay the interest rates. Wow, that's really it's incredible. But it's Switzerland because they are it's a bank country. So
In Austria, no.
yeah.
In Austria,
No.
No,
You have to pay back. You have to pay back. I mean, it's a long time. You have 40 years to pay back, and you get a public subsidy for it. So,
But how would you see in Rome the potential of the banks? Do you see any vision that there is a, because it makes all the sense for them. I mean, if there is investment, a real investment for a bank, it makes sense. How do you see the landscape of banks ready to interact? But the question is why not?
Sì, no, prego, Chiara, portalo
No, I mean, the situation is quite intricate, and mainly because banks have played a significant role also in the selling of the public assets. And so it's, I mean, why not? Yes, but at the same time, why we should trust this kind of processes, you know? There has been some cases, for instance, I'm thinking about one of the former squat of the same movement of spin time in Via Carlo Felice. It was a former squat from the same movement, and this squat was in a building that the owner of the building was Banca d'Italia, so which is one of the main banks in Italy, and they were able to negotiate in this case, and the bank allowed the families to stay there up to 2 years. But I mean, right now, at the very beginning of the process, also the movement was quite happy about this result, but at the end, it turned out that it was just corporate social responsibility, and after 2 years, nobody would have ever remind of that kind of episode, and these families went back into the sports system. So it's, I mean, it's not something that as a movement we oppose as such, but at the same time there is a history and there is a little problem of trust, let's say.
But if you look at the Mietshaus-Syndikat, I never know the translation in Italian, but it indicates
Mietshaus-Syndikat.
Syndicate
Union trade?
of rental houses, yeah.
that what in the 90s started in Germany, that in occupation, squatting, one of the main question is who is owning the building.
Yeah.
And to pay it back, they created a system that what they have is no money, but they have a huge network. And with this huge network, to have a questioning of loan me 1,000 to maximum 5,000 euro of the 400 people in your network. I give you back the interest of everybody, and with that you go to the bank and you get the start capital to buy the occupied house. And then with your rent, you pay back the interest, and after 20 years, the house is owned by itself. So everybody has just a lifelong right to live there, and if people are dying, the whole property starts to question who could enter. And after 25 years, they have more money, and with that more money, they could buy other houses. So it accumulates and become bigger and bigger. And I don't know if they have 190 buildings right now in Germany. And I think it's really interesting how you can trick within the capitalist system. So everybody, it would be interesting to calculate it for spin time, how much spin time would cost. Because you have...
We did that evaluation.
And how much is it?
How much would it have been?
Well, it's quite hard to estimate because the owner of the building said something like 100 millions. Yeah, but but of course it's it's too high.
Free market.
It's free market because they also include the cost of the lost revenue of the because of the spot. So it's quite hard to estimate the value of that building, but I think it was something around, the last evaluation was something around 1,000 euros square meter, something like that. No? 1,000? Or no, maybe more, 5,000.
No,
5,000. Sorry.
4,000 square meters?
5,000 euros per square meter. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's a
something
lot,
like this,
5,000.
but it was a provisional estimate.
It's quite central.
Yeah, and it was, I think the municipality of Rome was trying to estimate, but it was really a provisional estimation, so it's quite hard to say because there is no official cost of this building. The only price that we have is the one that the owner told us in the context. Yeah.
Obviously.
The problem is that we have some kind of a similar situation that you were mentioning. We have some experiences similar like those ones, but in the north of Italy, like in Turin, for instance.
Yeah.
We have something like those ones because the role of foundations is very strong, so sometimes they are able to do an in-between role between banks and cooperatives or other kinds of groups. In Rome, foundations, except maybe Charlemagne right now, but they have never played a huge role in this sense. And it's us against the municipality, against funds. That's it. So there are no in between these actors. And I think it's all a matter of political willingness and a lack of political willingness of trying to find also creative solutions to this kind of problems.
I mean, in Austria we have an organization. It's a partner organization of Mietshäuser-Syndikat. It's called Habitat, and they are very successful. So they are financing up to 10 projects now. They started about 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very good model.
But it's a lot of work. You need to
course, yeah,
put a lot of work into it, and in that case the network is so important because they give the knowledge from one project to the other. So, but maybe is there an international habitat network?
No, it's not international.
Okay.
But I think they are interested to be spread all. I think they wouldn't be.
They will come. One of them.
They
They will come here to an assembly.
Yeah, I would. They will come. That's
It
good.
would be interesting to talk with them.
They-
Also because
they have end of August. Yeah.
the only evaluation that we did was the social impact evaluation. That
No,
was
I think it's better
interesting.
if a highway would have been built, for the Fantozzi highway would continue, and crossing our spin time, the state would make an evaluation of.
Yes.
And they would say, this is the price I give you.
Yes,
And-
we had this evaluation not for spin time, but we had it for the Lago Pulicante. No?
Yeah.
And then, there is politics, they never want to achieve, they never want to reach this point where they have to say how much does it value. They want to negotiate.
Right.
And this is not to scare international investments. So at the Lago Pulicante, at a certain point, they made the evaluation, and the evaluation became very much affordable. And then they open up a pretty, how to say, the evaluation say the land is not more than 3.8 million. But modifying the land, it's something we don't know how much it costs, in between 1 and 100 million. So they made themselves useless the evaluation, because there was a risk over that it was not calculable, which actually was not real, because according to what has been happening, the regeneration of the site into a national site show us that there was nothing to bonify. Because this is the bonify is now the key word, no? to go over the possibility of exactly evaluate. Also because in the case of Springtime, but also Cassa e Depositi e Prestiti, the national institution that actually acts like a bank of investment also somehow, because it gathers the money of
savings from people.
Yeah. And supposedly, by institutionally, it was supposed to invest them for the future of the nation, for public interest. And actually, it's not working anymore like that. And this is very, no, it's actually acting like a private sector. And this is also the problem. Even the fund that bought, I mean, we don't have, I don't know if Chiara can be more clear on that, but I try to achieve the exact cost that they pay from the state to receive Springtime, the building, and well, nobody exactly knows. I mean, not even that. It's a public element around which would be easy to construct value. So there is opacity. There is an incredible opacity, and as Chiara was saying, the role of bank is also giving loan for buying houses, which is the biggest economy of the city, and why they should get into a risk if the city itself does not grant this kind of loans, and so we are very far away from this point. So
it's also a cultural issue, because I was watching the video Vienna saying that the 77% of people live in a rental accommodation. For us, it would be heaven. I mean, in Italy, there is still this, not only in Italy, but especially in Italy, there is still this strong perception that you have to own a house. And I think, banks, but not only banks, also governments that we have had these years, every time they design something for housing policies, they always design something for facilitate the access to purchase, not to social housing or to, the Italian dream is to have a place to buy or a place to live.
Which is also culturally understandable.
Yeah.
If you cannot trust the state, but in a society where you don't move, it makes even sense. If you accumulate in little villages more and more, that's obvious. But right now you live in a society where the little town where you have come from, when you studied and you went to Milan, that kind of economy of that house doesn't help you, not at all. And you have to be very, very lucky if mass tourism discovers Puglia, the little town where you have come from, and maybe then your apartment is more worse than the Milanese you are renting. But normally it's not that the case, and I think it would be interesting if there's a shift now, if the economical forces are so strong, but it depends also exactly on that what was accumulated through homes, which is heritage. No? So I mean, there are still, as there is this money around of your parents, your grandparents, it's still an unfair landscape of comparison. But I think in a certain moment there, maybe now or maybe in 20 years, there's a moment where this money does not exist anymore, because this generation doesn't create this kind of economy anymore. And then renting becomes, unfortunately, the only answer, because you will never own anything. I think that then it becomes a completely different kind of discussion. And right now I think it's an in-between moment, because it's proven, unfortunately it's proven that ownership creates money. Everybody here having a home in Venice, yeah, it creates, unfortunately, money, it's true. It would be a lie not to say that. It's just, in Milan right now, you know that you will not be part of the game. You will never have a home. It's impossible. And I think it's this dichotomy between those who have who have accumulated, and they were right in a certain way, economically speaking, they could prove, property makes sense. Throughout those which will never have property, it creates some enormous gap. And there should be two answers, in my opinion, to the new reality.
I think you can never buy this object if it's market value. You could never buy it because on the market, the trading, there are not buildings that are traded, there are locations that are traded, or the perspective or potential location has. For example, in Vienna we have a very famous object. It's a warehouse, La Mar, and it was built by Signa, who is now in jail also. And they tear down the object now. It's a new object. It's not finished, and they tear it down and build another one. There is no real value. There's no real value.
We have
And you have in Rome?
I didn't understand. What was that?
No, Rem Koolhaas made the architecture project for a huge investment of a gigantic shopping mall in the inner city of Vienna.
Okay.
And it was part of the Imperium of Signa,
Oh, okay.
which was shut down because it was based on very short-term windows of opportunity with speculation.
It was a speculative system.
Exactly. And just through the rising up of a few percentage of the European central bank, it collapsed. And a huge empire collapsed. And that means that they had inner city highly valuable homes, or even in New York, wherever. And a lot of them, of new projects, have not been finished. And now we have this very precious ruin in the middle of the city, but really best place ever, which cannot be finished. And as you said, it's more valuable to destroy them. Yeah.
But what I would say, you should, if it's possible, you should force the city or every state owner of an area, of a lot, of a plot, to give it to transfer it for the common good. I mean, you can also make a deal. You can say you transfer it to me below market price, fixed price, and I give you integration, science, culture, things like that. This is an offer. I mean, this is a big thing that you offer it to the city. It's a lot of wealth. Yeah, it's cultural wealth, and the public should react. Should value it and say, okay, you don't pay. I don't say 6,000 euros per square meter of area used, yeah, but you pay 750 or 1,000, and I get back the benefits of having a cultural center, of having integration. It's a big thing, I guess, and you should force them to do it. I mean, even the Swiss, I mean, the Zurich administration does it, and the Munich administration does it, and those are very, very market-oriented administrations.
Yeah, also in I went to Riga, and also there, I mean, there was a, I mean, the municipality gave the possibility of cooperatives to be in the spaces and build up like practices and present projects to increase the social value of the spaces. So, I mean, I don't understand because I don't know actually in Rome and in Italy how would it be possible to have a chance to do something like this. I mean, I don't know how is it possible that it's happening like everywhere, but it's not. I mean, happening in Rome. In Brussels, they pay them the rent and like bills, electricity. And everything to do it, to just be there. I mean, and not only you don't have like an abandoned space, you also have like a cultural center, so you have spaces for young people to meet, and you also regenerate a space. You don't need to bonify a space to do like a regeneration project. You save a lot of money, but I don't know how is it in Italy.
I mean, it was also very interesting. There was a research on Saskia why city surviving now. And we had in Vienna a similar case that Bratislava became a very important industrial hub for the production of Heinz tree. And then there was the interesting thing how Vienna would attract this higher management and why Vienna survives also. And there was a research which then led also to departure the third way to calculate how much cultural work which will never be productive. Also talk there, I don't know how much. Also if it would be full this year, so it will, for every seat the city still pays a lot of money. But as a whole, to be an attractive city, you need all these kind of cultural values, which are obviously giving things away. It's like to be a good host. You have an incredible amount of energy which you don't receive back. But people stay with you because you're sympathetic, etc. But these kind of cultural values will never be, it's never capitalist driven, cannot be. But it creates the value that people choose a city to live there.
Yeah.
And the same goes for neighborhoods, so it makes them even more secure. But it's also absurd that through gentrification, the agents of gentrification did not get their money back.
Yeah.
So they made a job, and then, I mean, it's a little bit absurd system. So it's like Guggenheim should receive money from tourism because they made Guggenheim museum. You know, the same goes for the agents of transformation. It's a little absurdity that you made something evil, but you never want to make something evil. You just want to make the good city, and then the price increase because gentrification happens. But the point is, even you wanted to make something good, you are exploited, you are pushed out, and you don't earn any money. But somebody earns on your shoulder of that what you did, money. And that's a little bit absurd calculation because you did the gentrification.
Yeah.
Also if you didn't want to do it, but as a matter of fact, you did the good, while others increased the market value of that neighbor.
Small statement. There are lots of property developments around Sargfabrik in the last 25 years, and they always market and say it's near Sargfabrik. So it's a marketing argument. It's crazy.
Also, it's weird.
Maybe
because,
it's near spin time.
Yeah, but we have the same problem with the lake.
Yeah,
Springtime not yet, but could be.
yeah,
But for the lake, it's also an environmental gentrification process.
yeah.
And it's crazy because, as you said, you produce value and you attract investment because you are like the, I don't know, the LGBTQ friendly area or the artist area, but then you are pushed away, and so the area is not artist area, so also the investment it's stupid because you are pushing away people that produce that reality, that people goes away and that remains a normal, you know.
It's very similar to that what
Neighborhoods.
I mean, it's the analog version. Sorry.
Okay. No, I was just wondering, like, maybe there was a place, or like, maybe you can tell me, or there's still a place where housing and place to live, it's somewhat treated as like healthcare or like school. This is like something that we don't, like that the public pays not for some classes, or like housing, it's a bit like that, I guess. So there is recognized that like added value for everybody, but it always, so we might give to the one that we think that really needs, or something like that. With healthcare or like school, we all accept that it's like, it makes the society all better, and it's added value for everybody if everybody has a house, for example. And this is so clear also if things, like to every person we know, like how worse their life can be if they doesn't have a house, for example, to live, or like a proper place. So can it be that we don't need that profitability, or we don't need that market functioning to build something like this, just like a cultural shift, or like some, I don't know, political ideas that, okay, healthcare we do, school we do, I don't know, fire department we do as well, housing, why not? And this is of course like, to me it's not a given, because there is also like a lot of like I don't know, like self-choice or way to live, for example, that maybe can like be in competition to it. But it's definitely like just shift of paradigm of like it's social service, and all makes us better and easier to live, I don't know. So I'm wondering if there was such straight change of paradigm somewhere without looking or going for making profit something that we think is good. I don't know if it was clear, the question.
I think that the Austrian or the Viennese system is a kind of hybrid of this, yes? Because they are giving subsidies and giving it only to the limited profit companies. They don't give it to private. They have to guarantee that it's not speculative. And it's also a kind of capitalist system. It's a kind of limit. They call it limited profit, and it's public. There is spent public subsidy. So I think this is a kind of such a system where you say you want to keep it out of the core of the economy, or it's a protected sector. Right. You can say it's a protected sector.
I would like to step in because I think we need a shift now because could start to get frustrated because the system does not change. Somehow we need freedom and autonomy, so now we develop new incredible strategies, but there is kind of a wall, but I believe we are in a transitional moment. So we also have to understand what's unpredictable. In an unpredictable way could help us, no? Because all these realities are the result of unpredictable process. So I think now, I also wanted to let's two steps, because I think with Edoardo could introduce also how Scomodo it's turned into an economic reality. And I think this is interesting because this allows us to at least hope that a way through the system the way it is now, and then maybe, but no, let's go. If you, I can translate you.
I prefer to speak Italian to be more accurate. Sì, intanto grazie mille delle riflessioni e rispetto alla domanda a stimolo di Lorenzo, la storia di Scomodo è una storia attualmente di 10 anni e quindi per 10 anni è un processo che anche in termini economici è cambiato molto e non ha mai avuto dei modelli prestabiliti alla base, ma molto di ricerca e di interrogazione costante.
So the history of Scomodo, it's only a 10-year history, but it's in 10 years a lot of shift happened, and it was started not as an economical adventure at all.
Noi siamo nati con una pratica totalmente auto-organizzata che era quella di occupare per una notte degli spazi abbandonati della città e con quei soldi finanziare le nostre attività, in particolar modo la rivista, e per un anno, quasi 2 anni, è stato il centro del nostro business model, se così si può dire.
So if we could call this a business model, the practice was to organize one day occupation of abandoned place to make big parties and gather money to finance the core of the business that was the magazine we were producing.
Un modello che chiaramente è stato di transizione in una fase in cui c'era una grande spinta popolare dal basso e che poi aveva tutta una serie di limitazioni legali, di denunce, di multe, quindi un'impossibilità di diventare qualcosa di strutturale rispetto alla realtà e che quindi ha portato appunto a un'interrogazione profonda su come e dove volessimo raccogliere risorse.
Of course the model was not fully sustainable because in one hand was achieving the result, but then it was creating questions with declarations, problems of legality, and also was based on harvesting a collective energy that you cannot long lasting living with.
E quindi, come dicevo all'inizio, non abbiamo ancora trovato un'unica risposta a questa questione che ci ponevamo proprio da ragazzi, ma quello che ci ha molto avvicinato a trovare un nostro modo, un nostro stile in questo è stata una diversificazione, quindi non legarci a una sola fonte economica, ma lavorare su più piani e più livelli.
So starting from that, we didn't try to get a singular solution, let's say a model, but we started to explore different possibilities and strategies, and so diversification has been the practice through which we develop our model.
Quindi partendo dal lavoro, diciamo dalla raccolta fondi che riguarda il rapporto con le persone, e quindi tutto quello che ha detto B2C, quindi business to client, dal punto di vista degli abbonamenti o di servizi specifici che possiamo fare come realtà,
alla parte di raccolta di fondi pubblici, quindi bandi e tutto il lavoro di partecipazione, a tutta una parte strutturata invece di lavoro magari con brand selezionati piuttosto che con realtà del mondo no profit o del terzo settore.
So there's been different ways to work on, of course, achieving public projects and try to achieve money through that, working with selected brands that would allow to have economical cooperation in the development of the project. Il primo come l'hai chiamato?
B2C essenzialmente abbonamenti.
And then sì, make come dice abbonamento?
Like membership.
Membership.
E ultimo gli spazi, che sono per noi un elemento molto importante in termini anche di possibilità di autosostentamento in termini economici, quindi non tanto di finanziare la struttura in generale, ma di poter costruire un modello di spazi sociali, culturali aperti e al tempo stesso economicamente sostenibili.
And then last but not least, spaces, the way spaces could grant a sustainability that could work economically and also create a different, a new model of social living.
E, diciamo, insisto per noi sul concetto di diversificazione, perché nel corso di questi anni ci siamo accorti come poi un unico modello di business non solo ti rende vulnerabile in termini di rapporti, in termini di stabilità, ma anche incide molto proprio su come ragioni. Chi vive solo di bandi ragiona in funzione spesso della progettazione, chi pensa soltanto a raccogliere attraverso abbonamenti ragiona unicamente in funzione di quello. Per noi la somma di questi elementi non è risolutiva del tutto, è sempre in divenire, ma pone degli stimoli di riflessione da questo punto di vista.
So the question of diversification is about also not achieving a certain mentality. Because if you start working only with public, then you depend with public and you create only a model of working with that. And if you work only on membership, then you have another kind of set mindset. So the question is not establish any mindset, but try to make all those energy work together into an unstable model, but that it's being the source and the energy through which they move.
Un'altra parte per noi molto importante di questo ragionamento è non solo dove prendi i soldi, ma anche come spendi i soldi. E in questo credo è anche uno stimolo che si lega molto al discorso sull'abitare, a modelli alternativi di abitare, e per noi riguarda un'economia circolare interna da questo punto di vista. Quindi il fatto che siamo un modello basato sulla comunità, quindi persone che si attivano all'inizio su base volontaria e che poi a cui speriamo di poter ridare anche micro opportunità o opportunità più strutturate di retribuzione.
So overall, the question is creating a community-based organization, and which is moved by the wish and the desires and needs to organize, and then through which, through times, trying to provide them also economical support.
E questo per me interviene anche su un piano più sociopolitico che noi viviamo, e quindi è mettere in condizioni delle persone che vogliono attivarsi in termini sociali, culturali, politici, di poterlo fare. Quindi costruire dei meccanismi di ridistribuzione in qualche modo delle entrate che fa il progetto per rendere sostenibile quel tipo di attivazione. È un modello che è ancora molto grezzo, molto acerbo, ma su cui stiamo proprio lavorando, quindi l'ottica che più un progetto economicamente può crescere, più la parte di ridistribuzione di quelle risorse diventa forte e impattante.
So the question of the circularity process, it's about also how to provide resources for implementing these practices of you didn't say innovation, but these practices of experimentation, let's say, and so the becoming of the economical model, it's the result of the attempt of finding this circularity in the process of building, which is self-reflecting a little bit come questione, però.
Concludo, per me anche come stimolo per la mia esperienza personale e a quello che ho visto poi accadere anche a tante realtà sociali e culturali intorno a Scomodo, intorno a noi, è molto importante in fasi di strutturazione di una realtà come dire, mettere in pubblica piazza la sostenibilità economica, quindi più l'elemento di come raccogli risorse, di come spendi risorse, è dominio di una collettività e conoscenza di una collettività, più sei in grado di governare quel processo di strutturazione, più sei in grado anche di difenderti da quelli che possono essere elementi che ti snaturano. Quindi, vai, scusa, e poi dico l'ultima cosa.
The whole question is also about being open and make public the whole process of gathering and assuming and spending money, so that this is shared and this is visible as an open process, so that everybody can feel confident with what's going on.
Ed è rivendicare molto la dimensione del processo e rispetto a dove, come dire, siamo partiti noi, quindi da un movimento totalmente auto-organizzato, sciolto, diciamo, da qualunque dinamica economica, è quello di, come dire, effettivamente poter coltivare un elemento di guida e di indirizzo collettivo anche rispetto alle scelte economiche, quindi distinguendo dei piani più tecnici e dei piani più politici, ma restituire una visione e una percezione a tutta la comunità, che è qualcosa che molte volte nei processi di formalizzazione di strutture come la nostra si tende a non fare, e noi stessi a volte lo facciamo meno di quanto vorremmo, quindi è anche un'autocritica, insomma.
So again, about this process, it's fully important because this also makes evident the needs that come sometimes from technical reasons, sometimes for political wishes, and so there is different inputs also in defining what the strategies are, and sometimes even themselves. I think all the structures that are self-organized lack very much in make evident and everybody participating this construction system that of course is not granting and is not fully caring of everybody, but since it's understandable and open, it's a way to be supported.
Thank you very much. A compliment when the space, but also your magazine is really fantastic. Because it goes also beyond cliché. I think that was really important for me to see a social space which was beyond the cliché, and then where you put up different, not the third or fourth or fifth way. So I found it fundamental, and your graphic communication is fantastic in terms of also, because it reminds really also on a magical moment of Red Vienna, like Otto Neurath, which was a very important philosopher, which tried to find a language that everybody could understand, no? And made it, and he started with inventing infographic in a certain way, and to show the complexity in the world in such a way that you could digest it, no? And I think really, really interesting, and that, so I think that was really, really crucial in the understanding of that, what you're doing. But therefore, I was just wondering also if, in a certain moment, obviously the state has to jump in and to give. Normally, an instrument in planning is zoning, and that you define a special zone where certain things could happen, no? And I think the evidence of your success, and also the success of Spintam and all the others, would be that what happened in a few other cities, that you declare certain areas for these pioneers, and you give them special rights, that there could not be an investment which goes beyond, but there is a duty also of those who are on that spot, that they have they take the burden of responsibility for the neighborhood, and I think, I mean, we cannot, I mean, there has to be the jump into politics. I mean, I'm sorry, because there has to be a decision making, and if you have a success story which is evident on so many levels, as you said, and we have houses which are so evident for everybody how they work, I mean, we cannot have the illusion that politics cannot do everything. If you treat whole Rome as one huge investment field where everything is free jungle, yeah, we cannot compete against the free jungle, it's obvious. But that's the role of politics, to say this quadrato is a special zone, and we think about why it is important. You get it cheaper, you get a special right, but you have a duty to make it for neighborhoods. And I think this deal has to be done in a certain way. And I think there is a moment where it can be done, where you have to bring politicians in it. Because if not, obviously, I mean, if not, you become London with all the consequences.
But you wanted to invite politics, or they did not come, huh? Didn't you want to that they take part?
Yes, they will take part, and they will take part in the Lago Mulicante,
Okay.
there where they have their own position. So they are challenging actually the position of the Lago on how to achieve a solution for the project. But the city of Rome does not have a position on how to step forward with spin time. And I believe this is the question, no? And this is why they don't want to put themselves into the discussion that they know where it would lead. And so this, I believe, I mean, we tried, we went together, we invited them formally, so we shared this whole process. And I think even if the sensibility of the representative of the patrimonio assessory was there, open, participatory, but then we didn't achieve the meeting.
I see a problem because our organizations and our aims and our cultural initiatives and everything is very sophisticated. We have a very sophisticated way of including people. We have a very sophisticated way of arguing, of thinking how to make decisions, to build projects. That's a very high level of sophistication. But the other side, the urban development and the real estate business, it's very primitive. It's a very simple business, and those people are really narrow-minded. So that's a problem, I guess, because we have a whole world, and they have a routine they follow, and they have a police where they can evict people from the houses. That's very unbalanced. And sometimes sophistication is not in favor of a solution. You should have in part some really simple movements. I think so. You know what I mean? I don't know where those simple movements are, but I think, for example, the demonstration you're at the 1st of March. That's understandable. It has force. So, yeah, but you can't, if you're so sophisticated, they will say, oh, we will overturn them because they are thinking like this. I think it's necessary to have some force also. I don't know what the force is, but
I always wanted to follow up on these beautiful comments. I always wanted the secret sauce, which is a language of money that everyone understands in a party place like Vienna, where every single department is happy with a deal. The deal's done. And I wonder how we could get everyone on the table and be okay with their part of the piece of the pie of the deal. Like, I would say banks are owned by, say, the top 5 families who bank with the bank. Can we go speak to the top 5 families, because the banks are owned by the people who bank with the bank, right? Is there like a level of openness where we can get to this? Because another thing, like, never break the ceiling, is this former question you said, how open is the banking system and banks? Because they always shield the capital with the people who bank with them, and the people who bank with them need the bank to shield them, and if you take money from them, they will start to get raise eyebrows on the blood money that they made. They'll go to jail, so they protect their money forever. Is there a way to break this barrier? That's a question I've been sitting for 10 years. How do you move money in a way that everyone understands?
But in Germany, for instance, there are these alternative banks. And so whenever you want to make a co-housing project, no?
Wow.
I think then you can go to this alternative bank, and they are acting totally different. But in Austria, they don't exist also.
Okay. Now we try to a little bit, getting late, but I think it's interesting to try to shift. So what are these forces? Now we have the city politics. And the city politics doesn't feel power enough to challenge the economical powers. And doesn't even feel the mandate connected with this, more with keeping good relation with economical power that provides communication, provides their sustainability. And this is another shift. Before, sustainability was given by people, no? And this so now people are there. It's fragmented. Going back to the discourse of diversity, it's also very important. We see here different models, different ways. I think they're all good. We have to look after all of them to understand something, like Scomoro is doing in its own internal economy. And this is a critical point always in Rome, because we never get this kind of collaborative, diverse attitude. No, they put it there as the mundus, as this idea of accepting diversity. We have an immense patrimony of abandonment. We were the first who had a Ramculas abandoned, a Calatrava abandoned, and a Fuchsas abandoned that was kind of saved, with an enormous expense of money. This season, the season then when architect would put it in the first page of magazine. And I have this, maybe I'm wrong, but since then I have this theory that architect became so popular, star architect, into an economical strategic system that wanted to put under debt our cities by producing this impossible architecture, sometimes even just a sketch. Fuchsas was a sketch of a cloud, and it costed 78 million euro to turn that sketch into reality. From a previous budget of 13. And I don't want to get into the numbers, but it's incredible numbers, and how all the system survives, through this failure of contemporary architecture. So it was the failure of city and the creation of debt, public debt. But now we have another emerging subject, designer, social designer, which is tourism. It stepped in the moment the star system architecture collapsed, and new possibility seems to come out in the moment where also coronavirus was there, and then the idea of regaining the common space, ecology, and it was coming up. Tourism in Rome was almost seems to be dead, and now it's 40% more than it was only 5 years ago, before the coronavirus. And I think the question now, it's also the public actors. They don't look useful, not for us, not in this moment. Changing the public actors would be a level of political engagement that's impossible, because anyway 80% of the population has their own house, and by the speculation they achieve their money to live, so they live. They're parasite also them. They parasite this kind of. But now the big shift and fast shift is coming from tourism. Tourism is taking over. It's sucking all the energy. It's giving away houses to everybody. Residents are kicking out even if they're middle class. And I think the shift, it's around the understanding what the sustainability, the political responsibility of tourists. I don't know how to say that. Maybe this sounds a little bit fantastic out of the concrete discussion, but I think we have to understand there where sits the cultural value that the city represents, and this livability. And the livability, which is the desire of visitors, is not there anymore. Inhabitants are not there, and so this autonomy, the last word I would also to recall from just an integration. The success of Spin Time, it's the capability of integrate, open up. It's becoming open. The question of autonomy, it's in the orienting the economy of the process. I think autonomy has to be in that, the capability to transform this into an economic reality. The question of relation with politics, demonstrations, it is crucial and important, but it's never been so unsuccessful like it is now. In the past was very much successful. In the 70s was fully successful. It really produced changes in the institution. So I wanted to be positive, and now maybe I didn't sound positive, but I think we should gain new citizenship with our tourists, at least in a place like Rome, where visitors has always been in collaborating with the city, in representing the city, in developing the city. I mean, foreign powers in representing themselves, and artists in narrating.
I mean, it's very interesting that tourism, me as a tourist, without thinking, I accept every tax they give me, no? I come here, I pay more, I go to Rome. So there's always this moment when I have to pay cash, the 3 euros.
Yeah.
So there's a moment where you accept that somebody takes money, and I never understood how this money could not be used for a commoning, no? I think that's the absurdity. So everybody, I think, to create an alliance with tourism would be very interesting. Because you're ready to spend that money because you spent it already.
But how would you bring the city of Rome to take 3 euros from everybody and to put it into a social project? That's totally hypothetical.
Why? I pay also 5 euros. If I go to Rome, I accept 2 euro more. If somebody tells me that 2 euro will be now for a project of commoning of every city, every tourist, and there are 5 big projects which are developed within 1 year, and I have even a right to choose which could be one of those. The 2 euros multiplicate how many millions do we have in tourism in
40
Rome?
million. Rome,
In Rome alone?
Rome, 47 million a year.
How much? 47
million.
So per 2 euros, it's already 98 million euros. You could already make a huge amount of buying back. So I think I think that 2 euro, nobody was harmed by the few euro more in Venice. Nobody stopped to come here just because you have to pay a little bit more. But if I know that a few of these euros are going into a common moment, and I can even participate in what has been chosen, like give the money, payback, spin time, or I don't know, new commoning space, but a real project which have been developed, I would be, and you have the feeling that you do something even good as a tourist, and you are not just exploitation, but you give something back in the system. That's also what people want. People don't want to feel guilty, and that's not a very nice sensation. But if you give them a way out of guilt and being agents of transformation, I think that could be a very interesting point.
I think this is a way to explore. I think the alliance with tourism, I mean, of course, the conflict with tourism is evident. Trying to search for an alliance with tourists, it's an interesting exploratory process. I mean, also the idea that you can host people. Now we also wanted to do it with the Pavilion. Also now Quarticciolo wants to create a place for hosting people. I think there is, it is time that the tourism, the way it's done by the system, it's unsustainable, and also for tourists. And I think tourists can achieve more responsibility. I mean, a long time ago, I imagined this citizenship card that could become also a way to membership. Yeah, we need to membership tourists. I don't know if we develop practices on that yet.
I think it could be interesting, but I don't think that's the main issue, at least in Rome. I think the main issue is the redistribution of taxes not paid by tourists, but by owners, and how the short-term rental works in Italy, but not only in Italy, because right now we are living in the craziest situation in the sense that if you own a place, maybe it's your grandma's place, or maybe you are a multi-owner and you own several buildings or apartments, it's actually more convenient to put that apartment into a short-term contract because you will pay less taxes for that, and at the same time you will earn 3 times more than having a normal rent, let's say. So that's the issue. The redistribution should be not mainly, at least, through the taxes paid by tourists, because it's not something. I mean, even the struggles against touristification that we have in Rome, for instance, it's not something that is against tourism as it is as such. It's something related to how the city council and the system that we have, economically speaking, doesn't want to intervene in the housing crisis related to tourism. We had a seminar something like a month ago, and in this seminar were involved also many politicians from the current city council. And when we ask them, what are you doing about having a regulation about short-term rental contracts, they said something, oh yeah, we are trying to set up a table composed by urban planning department of the municipality of Rome, and another one, tourism department from the municipality of Rome, and attività produttive, the economic development department. And we were like, yeah, first of all, where is the housing department inside this table? Because it's primarily a matter of housing. It's not only a matter of how to render sustainable, the flow of tourists, but it's also a matter of economic redistribution, as I would say, and also how to not steal space from the housing sector, and at the same time why we are still considering tourism an economic development activity and not an extractive activity, because the majority of the economic activities related to tourism in Rome are not something that then people and companies redistribute towards public goods, community projects. It's something that contributes to render tourism entrepreneurs richer and richer and richer, and there is no redistribution at all. So I don't think the problem is the tourist. I think the problem is the platforms and all the companies that are below this kind of system, that sometimes are even the major responsible for labor enslavement of.
But Airbnb gets 3% and 40% from the guest. So 3% from the one. So Airbnb gets 17% of the income, which is a gigantic amount. So if you would have a company which has 70% of growth, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So they would still have a lot of growth if they would go to 10%. And it would be interesting, but that's a European decision, if you are able to tax Airbnb on the company itself, because there is also a huge amount. And if you take 5% from them, where they still make gigantic growth, it would be, and if you could, but then you would accept the system that would mean you have to build new homes, which are just for social homes. But you accept a tourism system. So there are two ways. Or you make regulation that means less money through tourism, and less money maybe also for little companies. And that's what you said, the tax system. So I think it's a decision what you want to do. If you want to tax the platform, or you want to tax the owner, or you want to regulate it so that tourism is not possible anymore in that way. I mean, there are two options. One is based on growth, which means make more homes in certain cities.
In Rome doesn't work.
Here doesn't also not work, because Venice cannot grow. I cannot imagine that somebody let you build a new social element here. And then it goes to regulation.
For intervention here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know who was first, but
I'll be short. I'll be like very, very short. Because the thing is, like, I was wondering if the question that we should probably ask ourselves is there really a way to make a city where 3 million people live and many more people work every day livable with 47 million tourists?
in the complex, they're not
That's-
47 daily, but yes.
In a year, yeah, of course it's not 47 daily, but is there a way to make it livable? Because probably it's not. Like, there are cities that, like, for tourists, there are like people that not live in the city anymore. Venice is one of them, Florence is one of them. There are just people pouring every day, and you can try to tax the owner, the platform, the restaurant that like puts like 20% more just because tourists are eating there, and you can do all this stuff. But the thing is, like, yeah, but where the people that do live in the city, where do they go?
This is the question, yes.
I agree with you, and also I'm very delusional because I think the political, at least our administration, right now it's left wing, so we are also lucky somehow. But I think this regulation must come in Italy from Europe. Italy right now, I think, also for our confirmation, like we own a lot of property. Our economic system is shit. People don't have job, so many people rely on the short term because they don't have access to job. So if you gain a property from your grandfather, that for you is your living. So the administration, if they regulate this system, they touch a big part of the population. So or it comes from Europe, or we have to work on our economic before to ensure that everyone has an access to a decent job and you are not paying €3 per hour. And then maybe you can do taxation, because of course many people do it because for them is the only way to survive, basically. Also in Naples, we see, yeah, you know, it's not, I don't think that many people do it for living and to make more profit. Other people are students or young people that have shitty jobs, and for them is a way to live their life. And also, what I see from our administration, the way they are organizing tourists right now, is that they are. It's even more crazy because they say they are regulating tourism, but in a more exclusive way. So, particularly in Rome, you see the growing number of like resort or 5-star, like quality. They also do a classist definition between the tourists they want to attract. They don't want the fast tourists that don't have a power of spending. They want to attract the rich tourism. So, you know, it's a bit...
This makes sense, no? Somehow.
Yeah, this makes sense, but also, you know, you are not regulating tourism, and you are just doing tourism more exclusionary. At the end, that's the way they are regulating right now, to make tourism exclusionary, and we don't want that, of course, because of course, having all 5-star tourism make a fast growing of gentrification. You know, it's something. So the way they are regulating right now, it's this. But also there is the structural economic system that is broken, and.
Robert,
I wondered, is it possible that you just become your own bank? So real estate companies in Thailand, they get tired of loaning from banking partners. They just become their own bank. They open their own bank, have their branches. It's just a tech company sort of business model. You've got things like since Revolut came out, so many companies come up with their own internet, like mobile banking systems. Billionaires are leaving the UK to come to Italy just for tax reasons. You have 100 million tomorrow if you have a bank for them to put their money into. If 100 is what you need.
That's
you know.
That would
I
be.
think the bank system is the limited system overall.
I mean, there is the welfare bank system.
Yeah, that's what I'm
two
saying.
banks, and also in Switzerland there is one bank, and they were founded by their members. And the Austrians also tried, but they failed. But you could do it. But as to the tourism, I think you're right. I mean, it's a question of our lifestyle, in fact. You have 45 million tourists a year, and where do you want them to accommodate them? They need the space, so they take the space from the inhabitants now. It's a question of distributing. It's a very physical question. So if you have such a lot of tourists, they will stay there, and they will maybe take 10,000 of your apartments, or maybe 50,000, I don't know. Because that's a physical fact, I guess. And we are commuters. We are people who are traveling. I'm now in Venice and I'm traveling on a bicycle now. So it's very different from the lifestyle of people 50 years ago. We are very mobile. We are traveling all over the world, and not only the rich people, also the middle class people and even the lower middle class people are doing it, and they look for locations. And so the student, the one who heritage the apartment from his grandfather and think that they will rent it. So it's a basic thing of lifestyle, I guess. And it's not easy to regulate the lifestyle, so we should change our lifestyle. I think we are in the same world, all of us. So I don't know. I think it's necessary to regulate, but it's more necessary to provide affordable housing to the people who are living in Rome. And maybe there are the same 3 million people that are living now, and 50,000 more tourists, of 100,000 more. And they should be at the private market. Doesn't matter.
That would be amazing, but our public housing system is
stopped,
it's quit since a lot
but
of
this
time.
is duty. This is a public duty.
Since this is an assembly about two cases, in Vienna and in Rome, I would take advantages of this. It's not in a way we are here and we change our way of living. So thinking about tourism is just to form the other question, just not thinking about us. So please let's go back here. Let's try to understand what we can learn from each other. So my desire, just because we have been working a lot this year to bring all this reality here, really as a political act, it's very important to say from my side and Lorenzo, I would say, but also from the group who participate to this. So I would propose for the future a meeting in Vienna, bringing all of us there to learn, and also our politicians, because now we are here. As you said, they are very primitive. You said about bank, I would say about our administration, which are human beings anyway. It could be us. They are not other, but in a way we have to teach them, no? Let's talk about this word, teach, through our experience. So for me, it was a pity to talk about tourism and not to talk about the experience, because here we have a lot of people who really live every day and try to understand another way of living in our city, which we are very used to tourism, no? In a way we deal with this issue every day, no? I don't know about Vienna, but in Rome, yes. It's an issue, but it's not the real issue. So my proposal is to have an exchange with you and to bring also politicians, because today we are here, we have to, the process is very long, it's very, not so quick, very slow. So since we are here, we are putting some seats, so probably next time will come other people, other politicians, and that's it. So not to begin. Let's go to talk about the springtime and Sargfabrik and not tourism. Please.
But it's part of the city, and it's almost really a big part of Vienna.
But not today a way to talk about better living. Because otherwise we miss an occasion.
But I think Lorenzo put it in also to just show that it has to do also with hospitality, etc. So because you brought it in as a methodology.
Not speculate on tourism, but
I agree
starting
with
the experience.
Because it's a disaster in this moment. But in search of new alleys, I think the subject that it's under destruction in this moment is the tourism. Tourist itself, it's problematic, but he starts to leave this problem. So even this foundation, if we make, we are helped by a foundation that harvests luxury money and put them into social, because the luxury tourism needs some vernacular way of living, and we represent the vernacular way of living. Then we should take the knife from the other side and say, okay, let's get on a table. You rich guys want to have a luxury living, and we want to survive. So this is just to find new strategies. And also tourists can become an allies. I can't wait the day I see the demonstration of residents and tourists against tourist agencies. And the exploitation of Airbnb of the 70% of the income of a business that could be peer-to-peer. Now, I'm only saying that not to also step out, because I see the frustration of, I mean, what Chiara said is very important and clear. We need a redistribution of taxes, income, but to achieve that, we're get the same frustration. We're at the same point. I think our organization, our work, being here represented, the encounter with Vienna, the possibility of exchange with Vienna, the possibility to create, it is another lifestyle. We live in another lifestyle. I mean, a lot of the inhabitants of Spintime, it's incredibly, you step in and you say, but this is ridiculous, and then you start to love it. No? And I think this is what tourists would love. It's not that we have to make it for tourists, but to engage in our process.
Two things. The first, Vienna has about 400, about half of the housing stock is rental, social housing sector, and there will never be a tourist in one of those flats. I mean they are, and it's illegal. It's illegal. So half of the housing stock is cut. There will never be a tourist in one of these flats. And the second, in Sargfabrik, we have now 2 apartments for guest apartments for rent, and they are booked out. So it could also be opportunity to bring in tourists.
A lot of projects have that. Like in Zurich and all these co-housing projects, they have this kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I think it's a different kind of tourism, and I think it's they both of them are somehow profiting from it.
We're seriously talking about this in Spintime and
you have guests.
Talking about giving a part of the space for temporary residency, researchers, we've been with researchers, artists, but also could be some kind of income. Of course, maybe it's not the solution. I mean, we said there is not the solution. We try to help.
So, for example, we are here in a camping in an abandoned island where there is a social project, and we skip the tax. We try the way not to pay the tax from here. I mean, as a proposal, you don't have to represent, but also about this. So we try to.
But what would these movements expect from the other side? I mean, if we say we have a weak government, I mean, as we said, normally you could make special zones, or that what Vienna does, this kind of that every huge area has to have 2/3 of social housing, which is really an imposture by the city, which doesn't allow you to make big money. You cannot make big money with a third, because it's already defined by that what is in the 2/3 of it. So you can make like not a special economy zone, but you can make special zones where you say we have seen in every neighborhood realities which were through fight, were creating an entity, and you could say that this becomes a new model. If this is not a model because you say you have a weak government, what do the movement expect? What kind? So do you want to continue like this, like that, with where you have to have a special force at the beginning? Could there be an eternal movement like that, or what would you expect from the other people?
There's a big question to Spintime. There's a big question. What do we want? You mean?
Yeah. What do you expect from the dialogue from the other side? What should the city do, or the society, or what would be helpful for that process? We felt.
For sure, we would like the city to buy the building, no? First thing.
I like the Robert said that has to be recognized as a common good, just to give visibility to the culture and social and human value. In a way that we have Porto Fluviale here as an example, and there is an agreement with the administration.
Yeah, there is also
an
issue.
No? So you would trust the city if they would buy it? You would trust them?
That question.
No, we don't trust the fact that they say they would buy it, they don't buy it. We don't trust them in buying it, but if they would buy it, then
we have to play the game.
There has been a huge effort from both Spintime and other housing movements in Rome to get Spintime, Metropolis and Porto Fluviale into the new strategic housing plan of 2022. And it was a huge achievement, which for now, the situation that we have is that Porto Fluviale was public, so it's under renovations and it's going to be it's going to be public housing at a certain point. Metropolis, it's going through a negotiation too, because the owner was a private owner, but he wasn't interested in this building, in the very outskirts of the city. In our case, it's a slightly difficult, not just because we are kind of in the center of the city, so the owner is not very enthusiastic about selling it. But also there is an issue. We want that building to be by the municipality, but at the same time, we are a little bit worried that the next administration, for instance, could be right-wing. And in that case, it can be, a problem. Because if the owner is a public owner, of course, there are more, it's a better situation than a private owner. But at the same time, if the next major will be someone related to Giorgio Meloni, we don't know what will happen, actually.
But what would then the status be of that? Because you say you want it to be owned, what would be the status?
That's another, we still have to talk about that.
But to protect it from that, what you said, that it's not, that not the state can then change it easily. You could also define that it has a specific, that it has a specific name, like on a zoning of a school you cannot do certain things. And that would be interesting to understand what that would be.
We are trying to figure it out, because there has been some precedents, but there were only, let's say, residential buildings. In this case, it's more difficult because we would like to preserve both the residential part and also the social-cultural part. And the social-cultural part, paradoxically, is the one that is most attacked. Because, the housing part, you can be against spots, but you can't be against giving house to people, But the social-cultural part, politically speaking, it's more difficult to defend in this context. So we are trying to figure out how to protect a situation or potential situation like that, even if the major will be a right-wing major. But it's not easy. We have no precedents.
Yeah, when we were talking about this, I was talking about issues related to this, like beyond the political party, that would be like taking a step in advance in the next year, and it's what you were saying this morning, and how to preserve and how to deal with political integrity and creativity of a space like the one that we are that we are living and going through within an institutionalization of the space that we are living. That is really something that also on a European debate within communities doing this, it was really something that we were really discussing about it. I mean, when you institutionalize, when you go through a legalization of a space, don't you lose in a way? And it's something that is really a debate about what's going on, which is the denigration of the political integrity of the space that you are actually institutionalizing. I don't know. And another other two, I think, figures that we should really consider is the relationship with the real estate, to play within I don't know, with their roles in a debate and in a, I don't know, deal with for the legalization of the space, and also with within a record with the university relationship, research teams within these public spaces and within these communals. So on a side, recognize also on a university level and within research teams
commoners, so people leaving the spaces on a side, and on the other side, for example, try to find funds to broaden up like the research on the common spaces on a European projectual like view commission.
Do you have any persons who are sympathizing, who are, you like your project?
The Pope.
Persons of public. No, okay, the Pope is okay.
The new Pope.
I mean, the new
You
one.
mean the
No,
new
I
one?
mean, you
The
need,
last one
for
better?
example, in the Sargfabrik, the former, it's called counselor for housing. He was very empathetic with us because he was an old social democrat. And this was his. He was at the opening. He had tears in his eyes, and he said, "Oh, this is the old idea of cooperative housing." So it was such a big force, yeah, to have this one person who had his ideas and who said, "I like this." It was an emotional thing, and not a technical thing. So if you have persons who are engaged and who say, "Oh, this is the Pope would be a good." testimonial, maybe, yeah, and who are of public influence. They don't have to be of public influence. They just, for example, I knew him, and he gave us the city had a bank at that time, and I knew him, and I told him we need a financing, and he said, "I will call the director," and we got the loan.
Wow.
We would never have got a loan for this project if this person wouldn't have said his bank director to give us a loan. So
It's all a matter of personal connection.
yeah, it is, but it is a matter of personal involvement, of commitment,
Yeah.
and this is not bad if there are people are positively influencing.
Which you had already with the Pope, no?
I don't know if the Pope would be wonderful.
Not the American money.
Let's see with the new one.
We hope
No, the old Pope, the new Pope, no, I don't know, he's American.
With the new Pope?
Actually, I don't know if you want to tell that. At the end of October, there will be the meeting of the movement from the south of the world in springtime. They are organizing this big event connected to the Jubilee.
This is an heritage of the old Pope. So one of the big events of the Jubilee, the one that will bring in town all the social movements of will be held in springtime. So this is also next chance, not next opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
The strategy to support it.
Yeah.
From your experience, if somebody looks at springtime, a question to you, because you had this evolutionary process of this unbelievable experiment. What is missing? What is not working in your opinion?
That's the point. I think this is. But please, let's talk about the Pope first. Not the Pope.
But it's just, I mean, not what's going to happen at the end of October. It's that we will hold the 5th Encuentro Mundial de los Movimientos Populares, that started in 2015, 2016 with Pope Francis, and he basically what he tried to create a platform for all the popular movement, mainly from South America, but not only. It's 5-6 movement that kind of all across the world, and the chance that for the fifth meeting they wanted to kind of switch a little bit, because the first 4 ones were held by the Vatican, and at one point they say, okay, we build a platform, now the platform has to walk with its own feet, and they said let's start with springtime, because they do have a platform, they do have something to say, they do represent popular movement, a different way to do things, and for this reason we are trying to build this meeting, and it will be a chance. It will be a chance because we talked about it earlier. Chiara talked about it earlier when she presented her book, the one of the characteristics of Spin Time it's that understands deeply the value of being open to the territory. That it's not just something that you do for yourself. It's not something that you do for like to have a roof. It's something that you do for. It's something that you do for everyone. That's not just in the neighborhood. It's something that you do for the city. It's something that you do for other cities también. Because the two, scusate, because one time this is an experience that Chiara had. That I'm just talking about it. She was in a seminar. She was in a conference, and other cities said you have to say Spin Time because if you do say Spin Time, it will be such a good example for so many other activities that are in a weaker spot than Spin Time because we are in a kind of a strong spot because like we're still standing, and since we do understand this, when they told us host it, we were terrified. We still are terrified because it's something pretty huge, but we understand the value that it could have for us, for the city, and for everyone else. And for this reason, we will do this in October. And the church was always near Spin Time. Not always. It was like in the last years was near Spin Time. And for sure, it can be like huge like advocate for you. Like when they took like electricity and that like if it wasn't for the church, we wouldn't have electricity at this point. Probably we don't know. But the thing is like you can have the Pope talk for you, but if the city and the public power that is the one that does the rules does not understand completely the power and the value and the effort and everything that's going on, you can literally have the Pope talking for you and still get nothing, and that's very Roman. But yeah, that's kind of the situation.
Okay, we're at, almost closing. Maybe Alessandra, usually you have a synthesis. We have a big question. And maybe you are the perfect candidate to answer that question because your critical point of view is so important.
L'immagine di Spin Time alla fiera, cioè cosa non funziona?
Cos'è che non va Spin Time?
Era curioso di sapere questo.
Non ho la sintesi, parlerò in italiano.
I will translate her.
C'è un grosso problema di conflittualità interna che ci ha sottratto tante energie nel passato.
There's a big internal conflict that has been taking away a lot of energy in the past.
In questo momento sembra, andare meglio.
Now it seems that goes better.
Prima pensavamo che il conflitto fosse tra le comunità dell'est Europa e le comunità dell'Africa subsahariana.
In the beginning, the conflict was between Eastern Europe and sub-Saharan African communities.
Ma era un conflitto di cui si sapeva poco all'esterno.
It was a conflict that we didn't understand at all.
Che rimaneva chiuso ai piani.
That was sitting inside the housing dimension.
Poi c'è stato un periodo in cui molto forte è stato il conflitto tra gli abitanti e quelli che facevano attività culturali.
Then the conflict moved through in between inhabitants and social and cultural activities.
Chiaramente questo aveva una relazione con l'estrazione sociale di quelli che facevano le attività culturali e quella degli abitanti.
Evidently, there is also a class conflict in between who was doing social and cultural activities and the inhabitants.
Probabilmente era legato al fatto che gli abitanti avevano la percezione che ci fossero chissà quanti soldi che giravano tra i culturali.
The evidence was suspicious there were money going around in the cultural activity.
E anche questo è stato un conflitto su cui si è lavorato in varie maniere.
This was a conflict that we have been working on a lot.
poi c'è stato un conflitto con gli altri movimenti per il diritto all'abitare, questo ho sbagliato a dire poi, primissimo c'è stato un conflitto con gli altri
Then
movimenti.
now the question is also with other social housing right movements, the conflict, because of the positions of the different movements.
C'erano dei movimenti di lotta per la casa più dialoganti e dei movimenti di lotta per la casa contrari al dialogo con le istituzioni.
Based on the dialogue with institutions, so some social housing right movements are more contrary and some are more available for dialoguing with institutions.
Però questo è un elemento che viene da lontano in tutti i movimenti politici italiani.
There's a long-term fragmentation in all political social movements in Italy so far.
Io vengo da Napoli, dove le occupazioni che ci sono state hanno sempre molto subito la relazione tra quelli che non ritenevano che non bisognasse dialogare con il comune e quelli che invece ritenevano che bisognasse farsi acquistare i palazzi occupati.
I come from Naples, where this conflict has always been very evident, and inhabitants of those realities have always been suffering these conflicts.
A Roma tutti i movimenti sono più dialoganti, comunque, anche quelli più radicali.
In Rome, the situation is a bit different because all movements are more dialoguing with institutions than not in Naples.
E quindi la questione del conflitto è stata una delle questioni che hanno sottratto energia a una battaglia comune che potesse direzionarci verso una soluzione del problema.
And so this is probably the main question. The conflict is taking away a lot of energy in the common efforts to achieve the solution of the problem.
Però viviamo anche in un paese in cui la sinistra soffre questo stesso problema in una maniera, diciamo, più... la sinistra è molto depotenziata dai conflitti interni.
But we live in a country where this is also true at the institutional level, where the left has been very much power has been wasting energy and lose power because of internal conflict.
E poi c'è questa questione del rapporto con la Chiesa, che pure, diciamo, è stata un elemento è stato un elemento salvifico sicuramente, però è anche un elemento molto particolare, perché comunque viviamo in un paese in cui il Vaticano potrebbe dare qualche edificio in compensazione e prendere 2-3.
And also this is very contradictory relationship with the church and the Pope himself, because in one hand it's been salvific, without the Pope Springtime wouldn't be there anymore, but in the other hand the Vatican power and banks could, and as properties in big numbers, especially in Rome, that could also provide a very concrete help to the solution of this question.
Quindi noi siamo sempre stati tutti molto grati a quello che è accaduto, diciamo, grazie al Vaticano, ma siamo anche tutti consapevoli che la soluzione potrebbe trovarsi facilmente.
So we are very thankful for what the Pope did and to the whole effort to support Springtime, but we are also very aware that the solution for them would be very easy to find.
Certo, il nostro auspicio è che comunque sia sempre, cioè che il conflitto si trasformi non in conflitto interno che depotenzi, ma in lotta, e che sia la lotta che poi ci permetta un giorno di fare in modo che la soluzione si trovi e non l'acquisto del Vaticano. Però
Then of course the wish would be that the conflict wouldn't be an internal conflict but a direct struggle against the power that's not available for dialogue, and the solution would be the result of this struggle and not a present from the Vatican.
una volta, quando stavano sgomberando il primo centro sociale che avevo occupato a Napoli, che si chiamava Officina 99,
Once was when they were evicting the first social center in Naples, Officina 99, 99, work site.
facemmo un comitato di sostenitori dell'intelligenza nazionale, quindi io ero incaricata di telefonare agli scrittori e chiamai Henry De Luca. Gli dissi: vuoi sottoscrivere un appello che questo palazzo è importante per l'intera città e non va sgomberato? E lui mi disse no.
So once I was in charge of harvesting the interest of all national intellectuals over the importance of the building and the community of Officina 99, and so she had to call Henry De Luca, very important leftist writer in Naples, and then he said no.
He did also with me e lui mi disse no, perché gli spazi si difendono con la lotta, non chiamando dei vecchi con i capelli bianchi che possono scrivere sui giornali che sostengono l'esperienza.
And then he said no, because he said, you know, if you want to win this battle, you have to struggle for it, not call an old guy with white hair asking for support.
Però poi questa vicenda ebbe un lieto fine, perché a un certo punto il comune di Napoli comprò l'edificio da uno speculatore che l'aveva acquisito per 4 pidocchi.
4 pidocchi. Then the end of the story was anyway positive, because the city of Naples bought the building from the hands of a landlord.
Senza Henry De Luca.
Without the help of Henry De Luca. So there's some metaphors in this.
Non ho la sintesi, non lo so.
I'm not giving you a synthesis
No,
of that.
ho un desiderio, diciamo, che il conflitto si trasformi in forza. E che...
No synthesis, just a desire that conflicts will turn into collective struggle. Va bene, grazie.